ओके वी आर हे एवरीवन, कैसे हैं आप सब? आई होप यू आर डूइंग ग्रेट। टुडे आज 24 जून हो गया। सुबह के 10:04 हुए और मैं दिल्ली में हूँ अभी। सो व्हाट आई प्लान टुडे कि स्टडी मैंने 2 टॉपिक्स पढ़ी थी हिस्ट्री के फ्रॉम दिस बुक। मॉडर्न इंडिया से मैंने पढ़ी थी 2 चैप्टर। इसके बाद क्लास 7th का जो एनसीईआरटी है, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट एनसीईआरटी माना जाता है, तो इसके मैंने आई हैव फिनिश 2 चैप्टर। सो टुडे व्हाट आई डू, टुडे मैं कोशिश करूँगा कि इसके 2-3 चैप्टर आई फिनिश इट, और इफ़ पॉसिबल, अगर पॉसिबल मुझसे हो पाएगा तो आई विल ट्राई टू फिनिश इट कम्प्लीटली। कितने चैप्टर है इसमें? 10 चैप्टर रह रहे थे, जिसमें मैंने 6 to 7th चैप्टर पे हूँ, तो मैं इसको कंप्लीट करूँगा। और इसके बाद उसमें जो मॉडर्न इंडिया है उसका 2 टॉपिक्स, 2 चैप्टर मैंने फिनिश कर दिया है। आज का मेरा गोल है 2 चैप्टर फिनिश करने का। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट इट विदाउट एनी फर्दर डिले। चलो स्टार्ट करते हैं आज की कहानी। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट इट। ओके, आई नो बहुत सारे लोग जो देश के अलग अलग भागों से मुझसे जुड़ते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच गाइस फॉर सच अ बिग लव एंड सपोर्ट। कीप लविंग, कीप सपोर्टिंग मी। इट्स मीन्स अ लॉट्स फॉर मी द वे यू पीपल आर appreciating me, the way you people are supporting me. It's I'm not able to express in my words. Thank you so much guys for your support, for your love. Keep supporting, keep loving, and I will try to perform as well, uh, as much as whatever possible. So let's start it without any further delay. Yes. European penetrations and the British conquest. New phase in Europe, Eastern trades, India trades, and western trades and the trade relations with Europe go back to the ancient day of the Greeks. During the Middle Age, trade between the Europe and India and Southeast Asia was very long. And on the Silk Road, the Asian port of the trades was carried on mostly by the foreign merchants and the sailors. While the Mediterranean and European part was the virtual monopoly of the Italian. Goods from the Asia to Europe passed through the many states and many hands, and the trades remained highly profitable. The old trades route between the east and west come under the Turkish control after the Ottoman conquest of Asia Minor and captured the contest pile in 1453. Moreover, the merchants of the Venice and the Genoa monopolized the trade between the Europe and Asia, and they refused to let the new nation state of Western Europe, particularly Spain, Portugal, have any share in the trade through these old route. The West Europe states merchants and therefore began to the search of new, safer sea routes to the India and the Spice Island in the US. Then, no, at the East Indies, they wanted to break the Arabian Venetian trade monopoly, bypass the Turkey hostilities, and open a direct trade relation with the East. They were well equipped to do so, as a great advances in shipbuilding and the science of navigation had taken place during the 15th century. Moreover, the Renaissance has generated a great spirit of adventure among the people of Western Europe. The first steps were taken by the Portugal, Spain, which seamen sponsors and controlled by their government, began a great era of geographical discovery. 1492, the Columbus of the Spain set out to reach the India and discover the America state. In 1498, the Vasco da Gama of the Portuguese discovered the moon and all the sea route from the Europe to India. He sailed around Africa via the Cape of Good Hope and reached the Calicut. He returned with the cargo, which showed the 60 times the cost of the age bogies, and which, with other navigational discoveries, opened a new chapter in the history of the world. 17th and 18th century were to witness an enormous increase in the world trade. The vast new continent of America was open to the Europe, and the relation between the Europe and Asia were completely transformed. Another major sources of early capital accumulation and engagement for the European country was their penetration of Africa in the middle of 15th century. In the beginning, the gold, ivory of Africa has attracted the foreigners. Very soon, however, the trades with the Africa center around the slave trade. In the 16th century, the trades was monopoly of Spain, Portugal. Later, it was dominated by the Dutch, French, British. Year after the year, particularly after the 1650, thousands of African workers sold as slaves in the West Indies and in the North and South America. The slave ship carried manufactured goods from the Europe to Africa, exchanged them on the coast of Africa for the African slave, and took these slaves across the Atlantic and exchanged them for the colonial product, produce of plantation for the miner, and finally brought back and sold this produce in the Europe. It was on the immense profit of this triangular trade that commercial supremacy, Finland, France was to be based. A great deal of the West European and the North Americans prosperity was based on the slave trade and the plantation war by the slave labor. Moreover, the profit of the slave trade and the slave work and plantation provided some of the capital which financed the industrial revolution in the 18th and 19th century. A similar role was later played by the wealth extracted from the India. In the 16th century, the Europe merchant and soldiers also began the long process of the first penetration in the then subjugating the Asian land to their country. Portugal had monopoly of highly profitable eastern trade for nearly a century. In India, Portugal established its trading settlement of Cochin, Goa, Diu, Daman. From the beginning, and Portuguese combined the use of the forces with the trade. In this, they were helped by the superiority of their arms, which enabled them to dominate the sea. A handful of the Portuguese soldiers, sailors, could maintain their position on the sea against the much more powerful land power of India and Asia. By the threatening the Mughal shipping, they also succeed in securing many trading concessions on the Mughal Empire. Under the viceroyalty of the Alfonso de Albuquerque, who captured the Goa in 1510, and then Portuguese established their domination over the entire Asian coast from Hormuz to Persian Gulf, Malacca, and in Malaya, and the Spice Island in Indonesia. They seized the Indian territory on the coast of the Beach, constant war to expand their trades and dominance and safeguard their trade monopoly from their European rivals. Nor did they shy away from the piracy and plunder. They also indulged in the inhuman cruelties and the lawlessness. In spite of their barbaric behavior, their position in India survived for a century because they enjoyed the control over the high sea. Their soldiers, their administration maintained strict discipline. They did not have to face the might of Mughal Emperor. The South India was outside the Mughal influence. In the later half of the 16th century, the England and the Poland and later the France, all the growing commercial and the naval power waged a fierce struggle against the Spanish and Portuguese monopoly of the trade. In the struggle later to go under the English and the Dutch merchant were now able to use the Cape of Good route to India, so they joined the race of the empire in the east. In the end, the Dutch again controlled the Indonesia and the British over the India, Sri Lanka and Malaysia. 1602, the Dutch East India Company was formed and Dutch State Generals, Dutch Parliament gave it charter empowering it to make war and conclude the tactics, acquire territories and build the fortress. The main interest of the Dutch lay not to India but in the Indonesia island of Java, Sumatra and Spice Island, where the spice were produced. They sold out the Portuguese from the Malaya states and the Indonesia island in 1623, defeated the English attempt to establish themselves there. They also established a trading depots at the Surat, Bharuch, Cambay and Ahmedabad in Gujarat and West India. Cochin in Kerala, Nagapattinam in Madras, Masulipatinam in Andhra, Chinsura in Bengal, Patna in Bihar, and Agra in Uttar Pradesh. 1658, they also conquered the Sri Lanka from the Portuguese. The English merchants looked greedily at the Asian trade, the success of Portuguese, the rich cargo of species, calico, silk, gold, fall, drugs, and the workings and the aboni they carried, and the high profit they made inflamed the imagination of merchant of English and made them impatient to participate in such a profitable commerce. An English association of the company to the trade with the East India East was formed in 1599 under the auspices of group of merchants known as the Merchant Adventure. The company, popularly known as the East India Company, was granted a royal charter and exclusive privilege to the trades list by the Queen Elizabeth on 13 December of 1600. In 1608, they decided to open the factory. The name given at the time of trading reports at a Surat on the west coast of India, and sent the capital Pakistan, Jahangir, who obtained the royal firmans. The royal favors. Consequently, the English company was given the permission by the royal firman to open the factory at several places in the west. The English were not satisfied with the concession. In 1615, their ambassador, Sir Thomas Roe, reached the Mughal court. Roe succeeded in getting the imperial firman to trade and to establish the factory in all parts of Mughal Empire. In 1662, the Portuguese gave island of Bombay to King Charles II of England as a dowry for marrying the Portuguese princess. 1662, the Portuguese gave the island of Bombay to King Charles II of the England as a dowry for marrying the Portuguese princess. Eventually, the Portuguese lost all the possession in India except the Goa, Diu, and Daman. The English company fell out with the Dutch company over the division of the spices trade and Indonesian island. The intermittent war in India between the two powers, and which had begun in 1654 and ended in the 1667, when the English gave up all the claims to the Indonesia, while the Dutch agreed to leave alone the English settlement in India. The growth of the East India Company trades and the influence in 1670 to 1745. English East India Company had a very humble beginning in India. 1623, it established the factory, trading port at Surat, Bharuch, Ahmedabad, Agra, Masulipatam. From the very beginning, it tried to combine the trade and diplomacy with law and control the territory where their factory was situated. The conditions in the south were more favorable to the English as they did not have a face to strong Indian government there. The great Vijayanagar kingdoms had overthrown in 1565, and it's a place taken by the number of petty and the big state. It was easy to appeal their greed to overcome it. And strength. The English opened their first factory in the south at Masulipatam in 1611, but soon shifted the center of their activity to Madras. The lease of the which was granted to them by the local Raja in 1639. The Raja authorized them to fortify the places, administration it, and the coin money for the foundation of payment to him of half of the customs revenue of the port. Here the English built a small fort around their factories called St. George, Fort St. George. Interestingly enough, from the very beginning, and the company of profit-seeking merchant was also determined to make the Indian pay for the conquest of their own. For example, the board of the director (COD) of the company wrote to Madras authority in 1683. We would have you to strengthen the 45 or 4 down by the degree that it may be terrible with the assault of any Indian princes, Dutch power of India. But we must need desire to so continue my business, but with all the gentle that the inhabited may pay the full charges of all the repairs and fortifications. The island of Bombay was acquired by the East India Company from the British government in 1668, and it was immediately fortified. In Bombay, the English founded a large and easy to defend fort for the region because the English trade was threatened at the time by the raging Maratha power. Bombay soon superseded the Surat as the headquarters of the company in the west. In the eastern India, the English company had opened its first factory in Odisha in 1633. In the 1651, it was the permission to the trade of the Hooghly in the Delhi. It soon opened the factory at Patna in Bihar, Balapur in Odisha, Dhaka and other places in Bengal. It now desired that the Bengal too it should have an independent settlement. It's a dream of the establish the political power in India, which could enable it to compel the Mughal to allow them to free hand to trade, to force the Indian to send the chiefs and buy the deer, to keep the rivals European traders out, to make a state independence of policy of Indian power. Political power would also make it possible for it to appropriate Indian revenue and thus the foreign authority with own resources. Such a plan was explicitly put forward at the time in 1687. The director advised the governor of Madras. In 1689, they declared that the hostilities between the English and Mughal emperors broke out in 1686 after the former had shaken the Hooghly and declared a war on the empire. But the English had seriously misjudged the situation and underestimated the Mughal strength. The Mughal emperor under Aurangzeb was even no more than the match of the petty forces of the East India Company. The war ended disastrously for them. They were driven out of their factory in the Bengal and compelled to seek the refuge in the fever-stricken island at the mouth of Ganga. Their factory at Surat, Masulipatanam, Visakhapatnam were sieged and their port at Bombay besieged, having discovered that they were not yet strong enough to fight the Mughal power. The English once again became the humble petitioner and submitted that the ill crimes they had done may be pardoned. They expressed their willingness to trade under the protection of Indian rulers. Obviously, they had learned their lesson. Once again, they relied on the flattery and the humble entrance to get the trading consensus from the Mughal Empire. The Mughal authority readily pardoned the English and fully as they had no means of knowing that which harmless looking foreign trader would one day pose a serious threat to the country. Instead, they recognized that the foreign trade carried on by the company and benefited the Indian artisan and the merchant and their enriched the state's treasury. Moreover, the English, though the deep on the land were because of their naval supremacy capable of completely running Indian trade and shipping to Iran. West Asia, Northern and Eastern Africa, East Asia, Aurangzeb therefore permitted them to resume the trade on the payment of 1,50,000 as a compensation. In 1698, the company acquired the Jamidari of the three villages, Sutanti and Kalikata and the Gobindpur, and where they built the Fort Williams around the factory. The villagers soon grow into the city, which come to know as the Calcutta. In 1777, the company secured from the Emperor Farooq Siyar a farman confirming the privilege granted in 1691, extending them to Gujarat and Deccan. But during the first half of the 18th century, the Bengal was ruled by the strong Nawabs such as Murshid Quli Khan and Aliwardi Khan. They exercised a strict control over the English traders and prevented them from misusing their privilege. Nor did they allow them to strengthen the fortification at the rule city independently. The East India Company remained the natural even though the political ambition of the company was crushed. Its commercial affairs flourished at the naval. Its import from India into the English increased from 5 lakh euro in 1708 to 1,79,500 euro in 1740. The British settlement in the Madras, Bombay and the Calcutta became the nucleus of flourishing the city. Large number of the Indian merchants and the bankers were attracted in this city, which was due penalty to the new commercial opportunities available in these cities, partially to the unsettlement condition and the security outside was by the sea break of Mughal Empire. By the middle of the 18th century, the population of Madras had increased to 3 lakh of the Calcutta and 2 lakh and the Bombay in the 73. The Charter of 1600 granted to the East India Company for exclusive privilege of the traded east of the Cape of Good Hope for the period of the 50 years. The company was strictly close cooperation of the monopoly. In India, the factory of company was generally fortified area within which the warehouse, office and house of the company employees were situated. And it is to be noted that the no manufacture was carried on these factories. The company servants were paid a very low salary. Their real income of which they were keen to take a service in India come from the permission of company granted them to carry on the private trade within the company, while the trade between the India and Europe was reserved for the company. An Anglo-French struggle in the South India. English East India Company scheme of territorial conquest and political domination, which has been frustrated by the Aurangzeb at the end of 17th century, were reviewed during the 1740 because of the visible decline of Mughal. Nadir Shah invasion had revealed the decay of central authority, but there was not much scope for the foreign penetration into Western India where the vigorous Maratha held away. In the Eastern India, there was the Aliwardi Khan maintained the strict control. In the Southern India, however, the condition was gradually become the favorable for the foreign adventure, while the while the authorities appeared from there after the Aurangzeb death and the strong hand of Nizamullah, Asraf Jah was also begun by the death in 1748. And moreover, the Maratha chief regularly invaded Hyderabad and the rest of the south collected Chawa, and these raids resulted in a politically unsettled condition and the administrative disorganization. The Carnatic was involved in the Factorial War of Succession. Hello, Pa Prerak Sharma, right? How are you and where are you from? Oh, Jaipur is my favorite places, Rajasthan, but अभी जयपुर में बहुत गर्मी पड़ रही है. This condition gave the foreigners an opportunity to expand their political influence and control. मैं सिविल सर्विसेज का प्रिपरेशन कर रहा हूँ और आप भी स्टूडेंट हो क्या? यू आर यू ऑल्सो प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर एनी एग्जामिनेशन? But the English were not allowed the footing of our commercial and political all they had by the end of 17th century eliminated their Portuguese and Dutch and French appear as a new rival in the 20th year of society. 1744 to 1766, the French and the English were to wage a bitter war for control of the trade territory of India. The French East India Company was founded in 1664 and it was the foundation of the Chandranagari military organization. Oh, congratulations! You cleared the three attempts. It's nice to meet you. Later for the food, French company some other factory in the west coast. It had also island of Mauritius and the river. The French East India Company was heavily dependent on the French government, which helped it by giving it treasury grant, subsidies, and the loan, and in various other ways. Consequently, it was largely controlled by the government, which appointed its directors in 1723. The state-controlled company approved the quite harmful to it. The French state of the time was autocratic and semi-feudal and unpopular and suffered from corruption, inefficiency, instability. Instead of being a forward-looking, it was a decadent, born by the tradition, and in general unsuited to the control of such state would not put the injurious to the interest of the people. 1740 to the war broken out in Europe between the French and England. The war in the Europe between the Netherlands and France soon spread to the India, where the two East India Companies meshed with each other. In 1748, the Germans war between the England and the French ended through the though the war had ended, the rivalry in trade over the position in India continued and had to be decided one way or the other. Dupleix, the French Governor General of Pondicherry at that time, now evolved the strategy of using the well-disciplined and modern French army to intervene eventual quarrel of Indian. Thank you so much. I don't mind. I don't mind for your whatever message. Just because of that, they are here and uh, we we are meeting with the different people, different type of the people. Their ideology, their thoughts are different. I respect everybody. Thank you so much for your love support. Thank you. Mother supporting again the other securing the monetary, commercial, potential people from the victim. Thus, he planned to use the resources our army and the local bazaar arabs and chiefs to dissolve and test the French company to escape the English from India. The only barrier to the success of this strategy could have been refusal of Indian rulers to permit such a foreign intervention. But the Indian rulers were guided not by the patriotism, but by the narrow-minded pursuit of the personal ambition. They had a little hesitation in inviting the foreigner to help them to settle down with their internal side. 1748, the situation arose in the Carnatic and Hyderabad, which gave full scope to duplex talented talents for the intrigues. In the Carnatic, the Chanda side began to conspire away from Nawabs and Rudin, while the Hyderabad, the death of Asad Shah Nizamullah was followed by the civil war between his son Nasir Jung and his grandson Muzaffar Jung. Dupleix seized this opportunity and conclude the secret treaty with the Chanda side and Muzaffar Jung to help them with well-trained French and Indian forces. 1749, the three allies defeated and killed the Amruddin in the Battle of Amber and their sons Muhammad Ali fled the Trichonopoli. The rest of Carnatic passed under the domination of Chanda side and rewarded the French with a grant of 80 villages around the Pondicherry. In Hyderabad too, the French were successful. Nasir Jung was killed and Muzaffar Jung became the Nizam after Viceroy abdicated. The new Nizam rewarded the French company by giving its territories near the Pondicherry as well as the famous town of Massachusetts. He gave some of the 5 lakhs to the company and another 5 lakhs to the court. The Dupleix received the 20 lakh and the Jagis with the 1 lakh rupees per year. Moreover, he was made the honorary governor of Mughal domination on the east coast from the river Krishna and to Kanyakumari. The Dupleix stationed his best officer Baji at Hyderabad with the French army, while the ostensible purpose of this arrangement was to protect the Nizam from the enemy. It was a really aim at maintaining the French influence at his court, while the Muzaffar was marching towards his capital. He was accidentally killed, and the Baji immediately raised the Salbat Jung, the third son of the Nizam, and to the throne. In return, the new Nizam granted the French an area in the Andhra known as the Northern Sarkar, consisting of the 4 districts of the Muzaffarnagar, Alor, and the Rajmundry, Chikkapoli. The French power in the South India was now at its height, and Duplex's plan had succeeded beyond his dream. The French had started out by trying to win Indian states as a friend. They had ended by making them flying and settlement. But the English had not been silent spectators of their rival successor. To offset the French influence had increased their own. They had been integrating with Nasir Jang and Muhammad Ali. 1750 they decided to throw their entire strength beyond the Muhammad Ali. The Robert Clive's, a young clerk in the company service, proposed that the French pressure on the Muhammad Ali and besiege the Trichinopoli and could be released by the attacking Arcot, capital of the Carnatic. The proposal was accepted and Clive was able to occupy the Arcot with only 200 English and 300 Indian soldiers. As expected by Chanda Sahib, the French were compelled to raise their siege and Trichinopoli. The French forces were repeatedly defeated, and Chanda Sahib was soon captured and killed. The French fortunes were now at the heads of their army. Its general have proved unequal to their counterpart, and in the end of English government, weary of heavy expenses of war in India and fearing the loss of American economy, initiated a peace negotiation and agreed in 1754 to the English deal for the recall of the Duplex from the India. And this was the prove a big blow to the fortune of French company in India. The temporary peace between the two companies ended in 1756. Then another war between the Englands and the French broke out. In the very beginning of the war, the English managed to gain the control over the Bengal. And this has been discussed later in this chapter. After this event, there was a little hope for the French cause in India. The rich resources of Bengal turned the scales decisively in the favor of English. The decisive battle of war fought with Vandevish in 22nd January 76, when the English General Iry Coles defeated the Lily. Within the year of the French had lost all their possessions in India. The war ended in 1763 with the signing of Treaty of Paris. The French factories in India were restored, but they could no longer be fortified or even adequately garrisoned with the troops. They could serve only as a center of trade, and now the French live in India under the British protection. The English, on the other hand, ruled the Indian state free of all the European rivals. They could now sit on the task of controlling India. During their struggle with the French and their Indian allies, the English learned a few important and valuable lessons. First, in the absence of nationalisms in the country, they could advance their political skill by taking the advantage of mutual quarrels of the Indian school. And second, the Western trained infantry European or the Indian armed with the modern weapons and the backed by the artillery, and could defeat the old style Indian army with the each in the pitched battle. The third, it was the proof that Indian soldiers trained and armed in the European manner made a good as a soldiers of the India, and saved the Indian soldiers who lacked and fleeing the nationalism, and he could be hired and employed by anyone who was willing to pay him well The English line set out to create a powerful army consisting of Indians and called the Sepoy, and the officer by the Englishman. With this army as its chief instrument and the vast resources of the Indian territory under the command of English East India Company, and embarked an era of war and territorial expansion. British occupation of Bengal. The beginning of British political sway over the Indian may be traced to the Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey in the 1757, when the English East India Company force defeated the Siraj-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Bengal. The earlier British struggles with the French in the South India and had been retraced. The nation learned these were profitably applied in the Bengal. Bengal was the most fertile and the richest of Indian provinces. Its industry and the commerce were well developed. Thus, East India Company and its servant had highly profitable trading interests in the provinces. The company had secured the valuable provinces in 1777 under the royal command by the Mughal Empire, which had granted the company full freedom to export and import their goods in the Bengal without paying the taxes, and the right to issue the passes or the dastak for the movement of such a good. The company servants were also permitted to the trade, but were not permitted by this army. They were required to pay seal taxes on the Indian merchant. The Farman was the perpetual sources of conflict between the company and by the Nawab of Bengal. For one, it means loss of revenue to the Bengal government. Second, the power to issue the dastak for the company road was misused by the company servant to evade the taxes on the private. Although Nawab of Bengal from the Murshid Quli Khan to Ali Khan has objected to English interpretation of the Farman 1770, they have compelled the company to pay the lump sum of their treasury and formally suppress the misuse of the custom. The company had compelled to accept the authority of the Nawab in the matter, but its servant had taken every opportunity to invade and defeat this authority. Matters come to be the head in 1756 when the young and the quick-tempered Siraj-ud-Dawla succeed his grandfather Ali Khan, and he demanded of the English that they should trade on the same basis at the time of Murshid Quli Khan. The English refused to comply as they felt strong after their victory over the French in the South India. Instead of agreeing to pay the taxes on their goods to the Nawab, they levy heavy taxes on Indian goods entering Calcutta, which was under their control. All these naturally annoyed and angered the young Nawab, who also suspected that the company was hostile to him and was favoring his arrival for the thrones of Bengal. The breaking point come when, without taking the Nawab permission, the company began to fortify Calcutta. Expectation of the coming struggle with the French, who were stationed at the time of Chandranagar. Siraj rightly interpreted this action and attacked upon his sovereignty. And how could an independent ruler permit to private company of the merchant to build the fort to carry the province's war on his land? The other was Siraj was willing to let the European remain the merchant but not the master. He ordered the both English and the French to demolish their fortification at the Kolkata and the Chandranagar, and desist from the fighting each other. While the French company obeyed his order, the English company refused to do so, for its ambition had to wittered its confidence immense by its victories in the Carnatic. And it was now determined the remains in the Bengal, even against the wishes of the Nawab, and to trade there on their own terms. It has uh, it has acknowledged the British government right to control all its activity, and it has quickly accepted the restriction on its trade's power imposed in the Britain by the British government. Its right to trade with the East had been existing by the Parliament in 1693 when its charter was withdrawn. It has paid a huge bribe to the king, the parliament, and the politicians of the Britain in 1 year alone. It had to pay the 80,000 euro in the bribe. Nevertheless, the English company demanded the absolute right to trade freely in the Bengal, irrespective of Bengal Nawab order. This amounted direct challenge the Nawab's sovereignty. No ruler could possibly accept this position. Siraj-ud-Dowla had statesmanship to see the long-term implications of East India English design. He decided to make them obey the law of the land. Acting with a great energy but with undue the haste and inadequate preparation, Siraj-ud-Dowla seized the English factory at the Qasim Bazaar March on the Kolkata and occupied the Fort William 20 June 1756, and then he retired from the Calcutta to celebrate his victory, and letting the English escape with their ships, and this was the mistake, for he had underestimated the strength of enemy. The English officer took a refuge to Punta near the sea, protected by their naval superiority, and here they waited for the aid from the Madras, and in the meantime organized a wave of intrigue and treachery with the leading men of Nawab. The chief among these were the Mir Jafar, Mir Bakshi, Manik Chand, and the officer in charge of Calcutta, Ami Chand, the rich merchant Jagat Seth, and the biggest banker of the Bengal, and the Khadim Khan, which commanded a large number of the Nawab's troops. From the Madras come together a strong naval and the military forces under the Admiral Watson and the Colonel Clive. The Clive reconquered the Calcutta in the beginning of 1757 and compelled the Nawab to concede all the demands of the English. The English, however, were not satisfied. They were aiming high. They had decided to install more plant tools in the Siraj-ud-Dowla's places, having joining a conspiracy organized by the enemy of the young Nawab to place the Mir Jafar on the throne of Bengal. They presented a youthful Nawab with an impossible set of demands. Both the sides realized that the war to be the finish would have to be the fought between them. They met for the battle on the field of Lasi, about the 30 kilometers from the Murshidabad. On 23rd June 1757, the fateful battle of Lasi was a battle only in the name. In all, the English lost 29 men, while the Nawab lost nearly 500. The major part of the Nawab army led by the traitor Mir Jafar and the Rai Durlab who took no part in the fighting. Only the small troops of Nawab soldiers led by the Mir Jafar, the Mir Madan, and the Madan Amir Madan and the Mohan Lal fought bravely and well. Nawab was forced to flee and was captured and put to death by the Mir Jafar, the son of Miran. The Battle of Plassey was followed in the words of the Bengali poet Nabin Chandra Sen by the A Night of Eternal Blooms for India. The English proclaimed Mir Jafar the Nawab of Bengal and set out to gather the reward. The company was granted the undisputed right to the free trade in Bengal, Bihar, Odisha, and it also received the Jamidari of 24th Pargana near the Calcutta. Mir Jafar paid some of the 17 lakhs 1,77 lakh as a compensation for attack on the Calcutta Queen, the company and the traders of the city. In addition, he paid a large sum as a gift or the bribe to the high officer of the company, and Clive, for example, received over the 2 million rupees and Watts over the 1 million. And Clive later estimated that the company had its servant had collected more than the 30 million rupees from the Prophet Nawab. And it was also understood that the British merchant and official would no longer be asked to pay any taxes on their private trade. The Battle of Plassey was an immense historical importance. It paved the way for the British mastery of Bengal and eventually of the whole of India. Its troops, its booster, the British prestige and the single stroke raised them to the status of major contenders of the Indian Empire. The rich revenue of Bengal enabled them to organize a strong army to meet the cost of conquest of the rest of the country. The Poland over the Bengal played a decisive role in the Anglo-French struggle. Lastly, the victory of Plassey enabled the company and its servant to amass an untold wealth at the cost of the helpless people of Bengal. As the British historians Edward Thompson and G.T. Gattas have remarked, to engineer a revolution had been revealed as the most paying game in the world. A gold lost unquilled since the hysteria that took hold of the Spanish of the Carrot, Pizarro page filled with the English. Bengal in particularly was not known the peace gave until it had been laid down. Even though Mir Jafar owned his position with the company and he soon repented the bargains and he had stuck. His treasury was quickly inhibited by the demand of company officers for the budget and the price. The lead in the matter being given to the client himself. At the Poland Menations had put it, the single aim of the company official was to grab all they could to use Mir Jafar as the golden sack into which they could dip their hand at a pleasure. The company itself was seized with the unsurpassable greed and believing that the Kamdhenu had been found that the wealth of the Bengals was the inexhaustible, and the director of the company ordered that Bengal should pay the expenses of Bombay, Madras Presidency and the purchase out its revenue all the company export from India. The company was no longer to merely trade with India, and it was used to control over the Nawab of Bengal to drain the wealth of the province. Mir Jafar soon discovered that it was impossible to meet the full demand of the company and its officials provide on their part and began to criticize the Nawab for his incapacity in fulfilling their expectation. Also, in October 60-day force they held abdicate in the favor of his son-in-law Mir Qasim, who rewarded his benefactor by the granting the company Jamidari of the district of Bardhaman, Mednipur, Chittagong, and giving the handsome present totaling 29 lakh of the rupees in the high English official. Mir Qasim, however, believed that the English spoke and soon emerged as a threat to their position and design in the Bengal. He was an able, efficient, and strong ruler, determined to free himself from the foreign control. He realized that a full prejudice and the efficient army were essential to maintain his independence. He therefore tried to prevent the public disorder and increase his income by removing the corruption from the revenue administration and hence raise the modern and disciplined army among the European world. Hello, how are you? Good morning. I hope you're doing great. Most of all, they dislike the normal attempt to cheat the message of permanent 70 by the company server, who demanded that the rules whether the stand for the export for the internal use should be free of the encourage the Indian merchant as they had to pay the taxes from on a year worth of complete exemption. Moreover, the company servant illegally sold the stock for the free passes to friendly Indian merchant who were thereby able to evade the internal custom. And this produced the rules and the punished Indian trader through the unfair competition and the pride and above of the every important sources of revenue. In addition, this the company and the servant forced the Indian officer and Jamidar to give them presents on the ground. They compelled the Indian artisan peasants merchants to sell their goods cheap, but buy their dear from them. The people who refused were often flogged, improved. These years have been described by the recent British historian Percival Spear as the period of open, unquestioned plunder. In fact, the prosperity of which the Bengal was renowned was being gradually destroyed. Mir Qasim realized that if these abuse continued, he could never hope to make the Bengal strong and free himself of the company control. He therefore took the drastic step of abolishing all the duty on the internal trade, thus giving its whole subject and emphasis in the English have seized by the most. But the aliens merchants were not willing to promote equality between themselves and India. They demanded the reimposition of duty on Indian trade. The battle was about to begin again. The truth of the matter was that there could not exist a pure master in Bengal. While the Mir Qasim believed that he was an independent ruler, the English demanded that he should act as the mere tools in their time, for had they not put him in the power. Mir Qasim was defeated in a series of battles in 1763 and flew to Awadh where he formed alliances with the Sujau-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Awadh, Shah Alam II, the fugitive Mughal Emperor. The three alliances clashed with the company army at Buxar on 22nd October 1764, were thoroughly defeated. This was one of the most decisive battles of Indian history as it was demonstrated the supremacy of English arm over the combined army of the two major Indian armies. It firmly established the British as a master of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha and the place of the Clive, who had returned to Bengal in 1765 as its governor, decided to seek the chance of the power in Bengal and to gradually transfer the authority of government from the Nawab and the country. 1763, the British had restored the Mir Jafar as a Nawab and collected a huge sum of the company and its high officers. Mir Jafar they placed his second son, Nizam-ud-Dawla, on the throne, and as the reward to the Dames, it made him sign a new treaty on the 20 Feb 1765. By this treaty, the Nawab was disbanded most of his army and administration. Bengal, through the deputy Subedar, who was to be nominated by the company and who could not be dismissed without its approval. The company thus gained the supreme control over the administration of Bengal. The member of the Bengal Council of Company once again extracted nearly 15 lakh of the rupees from the new note. When the Shah Alam II, who was still a titular head of the Mughal Empire, the company secured the Diwani, or the right to collect the revenue of the Bihar, Bengal, Odisha. Thus, its control over the Bengal was legalized and the revenue of its most prosperous of Indian provinces places at the Bengal. In return, the company gave him a subsidy of 26 lakh of rupees and secured for him to districts of the Pura, Allahabad. The company resides the fort of Allahabad for the 6 years and as a virtual prisoner of English. The Nawab of Awadh, Sujau-ud-Dawla, was made a war indemnity of the 5 million rupees to the company. Moreover, the two signs an allegiance by which the company promised to support the Nawab against the outside attack being provided. He paid the service of the troops and sent his aid. This alliances made the Nawab dependent of the company. Double system of administration of Bengal. Dual system of administration. East India Company became the real master of Bengal at least from 1765. Its army was in the sole control of its defense. Supreme political power was in its hand. The Nawab, the Nawab depends on his internal and external security on the British. As the Diwan, the company directly collected its revenue while through the right to nominate the deputy subedar. It controlled the Nijamat or the police and the judiciary power. The arrangement is known as history of the Diwan or double government. Diwan Nijamat. Diwan is the company directly collected the revenue. The officer nominated by the Subedar. It controlled the Nijamat, the police and judicial power. This arrangement is known as in the history Diwan. It held a great advantage for the British. They had power without responsibility. The Nawab and his officials had a responsibility of administration but not in the power to decide. The weakness of the government could be blamed on the Indians while its fruits were gathered by the British. The consequence for the people of Bengal were disasters. Neither the company nor the Nawab cared for their welfare. The company's servants now had a whole of Bengal to themselves and their operation of the people increased greatly. They can quote of Clive himself. The company authorities on their part set out together. The rich harvested drained the Bengal of its wealth. They stopped sending money from the England to purchase the Indian goods. Instead, they purchased these goods from the revenue of Bengal and sold them abroad. These were known as the company investment and form a part of its profit. On the top of all this, the British government wanted to its share of the rich prize and in 1767 ordered the company to pay 40 lakh euro per year. 4 lakh euro. 4 lakh euro. In year 1766 and 1767 and 1768 alone nearly 5.7 million euro were drained from the Bengal. The abuse of the dual government and the drain of wealth lead to imprisonment and exhaustion of all the unlucky provinces. 1770 the Bengal suffered from the famine, which in its effect effect proved one of the most terrible famine known as the human history. People died in lakhs. Nearly one-third of Bengal population fell victim of its revenge. Though the famine had due to the failure of rain and its effect were highest pulled by the company of policies. War under the Warren Hastings 1772 to 85 and the Cornwallis. East India Company had in 1772 become the important Indian power and its direction in England. Its officials in India set out to consolidate their control over the Bengal before beginning a new round. A new round of conquest. However, their habit of interfering in the internal affairs of Indian states and their lust for the territory and money soon involved them in the series of war. 1766 they joined the Nizam of Hyderabad by attacking the Hyder Ali of Mysore, but Hyder Ali forced the Madras Council to sign a peace treaty on his terms. Then the 75 the English clashes with the Maratha. An intense struggle for the power was taking place at that time among the Maratha between the supporters of infant Peshwa Madhav Rao II, led by the Nana Fadnis Raghunath Rao. The British officials in the Bombay decided to intervene on the behalf of Raghunath. They hoped thus to repeat the exploit of their countrymen in the Maratha, in the Madras and Bengals, and reap the consequent monetary advances. This involved them in the along the war with the Marathas, which lasted in 75 to 1785. This was a dark hour indeed for the British power in India. All the Maratha chiefs were united behind the Peshwa and his chief minister Nana Pandit. The southern India power had long been resenting the presence of the British among them. The Hyder Ali and the Nizam chose this moment to declare war against the company. Thus the British were faced with a powerful combination of Maratha, Mysore, Hyderabad. Abroad they were losing war in their colony in America where the people had rebelled in 1776. They also had a counter to determine the design of French to exploit the difficulty of their old rival. British in India were however led at this time by the energetic and experienced Governor General Warren Hastings. He acted with calm resolve the determination. Neither side won the victory, and the war come to the still peace was concluded in 1782 with the Treaty of Salbai, by which the status quo was maintained and saved the British from the combined opposition of India. This war is known in the history as the First Anglo-Maratha War and did not end in the victory for either side, but it did give the British 20 years of the peace with the Maratha, the strongest Indian power in the day. The British utilized this period to consolidate their role over the Bengal presidency, while the Maratha chiefs fritter away their energy in the bitter mutual suitable. Moreover, the Treaty of Salbai enabled the British to exploit the pressure on the Mysore. The Maratha promised to help them recovering their territories from the Hyder Ali. Once again, the British has succeeded in dividing the Indian power. is not permitted to the station that will remain now on the 26th and the real which will access on the but the aggressively the unpublished sections of the British official India were still satisfied for they wanted to include the direct British rule over the country and they were opportunity country in 1848 and Britain's loving for Punjabi Rajah the numerous local revolts. Two of the prominent revolts were led by Raja Dimata and Chattar Singh Parival India. The Punjabis were come to once again decisively defeated in archaeology seeking this opportunity to annex the Punjab. Thus, last the independent state of India was absorbed in the British Empire. Energy and the policy of elections. Lord Dalhousie come to India, Governor General 1848. Lord Dalhousie come to India, Governor General 1848. Was from the beginning determined to annex the Bharat British rule over the large portion. He had declared that existence of all neighboring states of India is just a question of underlying motives of this policy were expansion of British exploitation and technology like other aggressive imperials believed that the British exploit to the native state of India were suffering because of maladministration of these states by giving them moreover they thought that their Indian alliance had already served the purpose of facilitating British conquest of India and could now be bought by the Portuguese. Structure of government and economic policy of British Empire in India 1757 and 1857. Having acquired the vast empire, East India Company had a device suitable method for government to control and administrative policy of company underwent frequent changes during the long period between 1757 to 1857. However, it never lost sight of its main objective, which were increase the company profit and the profitability of its Indian position to the Britain to maintain, strengthen the British hold over it. All the other purposes were subordinated to each other. The administrative machinery of Government of India was designed to develop to severe these ends. The main emphasis in this respect was to place on the maintenance of law and order, so that the trade with India and the exploitation of its resources could be carried on without cost. Structure of the government. When the official of East India Company acquired the control of the Bengal in 1765, and they had little intention to making any innovations in the administration. They only desired to carry on the profitable trade, like the taxes for remission to England. From 1765 to 1772, in the period of dual government, Indian officers were allowed to function as before, but under the overall control of the British government. The British official, the Indian official has a responsibility, but no power, while the company official has power but no responsibility. No set of officials were the women and the corrupt men. In 1772, the company ended the dual government, undertook the administrative Bengal directly through its own servant, but the evil inherited the administration of the company by the purely commercial company soon continued. East India Company was that time the commercial body designed to trade with countries. Moreover, the highest authority was situated in the England, many thousands of kilometers away from the India had come to wield the political power over the millions of the people. And this anomalous state of affairs posed many problems for the British government. And what was to be the relation of the East India Company and its opposition to the government in the Britain? How were the company authority to the Britain to control the great multitudes of officers and the soldiers stationed in the power? How was the single center of control to be provided in India over the far-flung British position in Bengal, Madras, and most of these problems were the most pressing as well as the most important. It was also called the interwoven with the party and the parliamentary rivalry in the group. The political ambition of the English statesmen and the commercial greed of English merchants. The rich resources of Bengal has fallen into the hand of the company. Both the director immediately rated dividends to the 10% in 1767 and the proposed for 1771 to rate the rate of the rate 1.5%. That's 1.5%. The company English servant took the advantage of their position to make the quick fortune, though the illegal and unequal trades and the forcible collection of bribes and greed gift from the India chiefs and jamidars. Clive returned to the England at the age of 34 with the wealth properties yield of 40,000 euro per year. The company high dividend and the fabulous wealth brought home by the officer. Excited or jealous of other section in the British society, merchant kept out oppressed by the monopoly of the company and the growing the class of manufacturer in the general, the raging forces of free enterprises. The British wanted to share in the profitable Indian trades and the rich of India, which with the company and its servant alone were enjoying. Therefore, the work hard to destroy the company trade monopoly, and in order to achieve this, they attracted the company administration of Bengal, and they also made the official of the company who returned from the India their special power. These officials were given to their title of nobles were the ridiculous in the press on the stage. They were boycotted by the aristocracy, were condemned by the exploitation and the oppression of Indian people. And their two main targets were lives and Warren Hastings. By condemning the nobles, the opponents of the company fought to make the company unpopular and then to displace. Many ministers and the other members of parliament were keen to benefit from the acquisition of Bengal. They sought to win the popular support by the forcing the company to pay the tributes of British women so that the Indian revenue could be used to reduce the taxation for the public debt of the 1767 the Parliament passes an act of obliging the company to pay the British treasury of €4 lakh per year. Many political thinkers in the state manner the British wanted to control the activity of the company and its officials because they were afraid that the powerful company and its rich officials would completely demolish the English notion and its policy. The parliamentary politics of the British during the latter half of the 18th century were to corrupt and extend the company as well as its retired officials got a seat in the House of the Commons for their agent. Many English statements were worried that the company and its officials, backed by the Indian plunder, might gain the preponderance influence in the government of Britain. The company and its vast empire in India had to be controlled by the company, and its master of India would soon come to control the British administration and to be the position to destroy the liberty of the British people. Exclusive privilege of the company were also attacked by the rising the school of economic and free trade markets and capitalism. In his celebrated work, The Wealth of Nation, Adam Smith, the founder of classical economy, condemned the exclusive company. But the reorganization of relations between the British state and the company authority became necessary, and the occasion eroded when the company had to ask the government for the loan of the €10 lakh. But while the company enemies were the many and the powerful, it was not without the powerful train and the parliament. Moreover, the King George thought was its person at one. The company therefore fought to back in the end of parliament work out to compromise by which the interests of the company and the various influence section of British society were delicately balanced. It was decided that the British government would control the basic policy of the company and the administration so that the British rule in India was carried on the interest of the British upper classes at the same time the company would retain the monopoly of the estate and the valuable right of the company. completed its officiality. The detail of Indian administration were also left to the director of the company. The first company parliamentary act regarding the company affairs of the Regulating Act 1773. That what made the changes in the constitution of board of director of the company with the subject direction and the supervision of the British government. The Regulating Act soon broke down the practice and it had given to the government affected and decisive control over the company. That had failed to resolve the conflict between the company and its opponent. The British also had British who were daily growing stronger and more weapons. Moreover, the company remained extremely valuable to attack its enemy. The administration of its Indian position continued to be the corrupt, oppressive, economic disaster. The defeat of the Regulating Act and existed the British policy necessary to pass in the 1784. Another important act known as the Pitt's India Act. This act gave the British government the supreme control over the country. Pitt's India gave the British government the supreme control over the company affair and its administration in India. It established the six commissions for the affair of India, popularly known as the Board of Control, including the two cabinet ministers. Board of Control was the guided and controlled work of the Board of Directors and the Government of India. That placed the Government of India in the hand of the Governor General and Council of the three, so that if the Governor General could give the support of even one member, he could be have his way. The act clearly subordinated by the Bengal, Madras presidency to the Bengal in all the portions of the war diplomacy of the government. With the act began to new phase of the British conquest in India, while the East India Company became the instrument of British national policy. India was to be made to civilian in case of all the sections of the ruling class of the Britain. Company having saved its monopoly of the Indian and Chinese trade was satisfied, and its director retained the profitable part of the company and that is making the British office in London. Moreover, the government of India was to be carried out through their agency. While the East India Company laid down the general framework in which the government of India was to be carried till 1857 and later enactment brought about the several important changes which gradually diminished the power and privilege of the government. 1786, the Governor General was given authority to overrule his council in the matter of important affecting safety, peace and interests of the empire. By the Charter Act of 1850, the trade monopoly of the company in India was ended and trade with India was thrown open to all the British. Trade in tea and trade with the China were still exclusive for the company. The government Various sets of condemning discuss about the completeness about the company and its Indian administration. The greatest comment at the same time it was recognized that the day-to-day administration of India could not be run even the superintendent from the distance of 6,000 miles. The supreme authority in India was therefore the Governor General Council. The Governor General having authority to overrule the programs which council on the important question become the fact. The real effective rulers in India are functioning under the superintendent and control director of the greater company. The greatest created a new system of administration in India to serve the purpose, but the Before we discuss the silent features of this system, it would be the better we first examine the purpose in which it was designed to serve. For this main function, the administrative system of the country which accomplish the aim and objective of its ruler. The chief aim of the British was to enable them to exploit the India economically and maximum the advantage of the various British interests, ranging from the company and the Lancashire manufacture. In 1793, the Lord Cornwallis, the Governor General, defined the two primary objectives of Bengal government. It must be ensured that its political safety, and it must be ensured it must render the position of the country at the advantage as possible to East India Company and the British nation. At the same time, India was to be made to be the full cost of its own conquest as well as the foreign road. The examination of the economic policy of the British in India is therefore of the prime importance. Commercial policy, British economic policy in India, 1757 to 1857. What happened in 1600 to 1750? East India Company role in India was to trading corporation, which brought the goods and the precious metal into the India and exchanged them to Indian goods like textile, spices, and which is sold in the abroad, and its profit come primarily from the sale of Indian goods abroad. Naturally, it tried to constantly open a new market for Indian goods in the Britain and the other country there. Thereby, it increased the export of Indian manufacture and thus encouraged their production. And this is the reason why the Indian rulers tolerate even encourage establishment of company factories in India. But from the very beginning, the British manufacturers were the jealous of the popularity and that the Indian textile enjoyed the Britain. All of sudden, the dress fashion changes. The light cotton textile began to replace the coarse woolen of the England. Before the author of the famous novel named Robinson Crusoe complained that the Indian cloth has crept into our houses, our clothes and the bed chambers, curtains, uh, chairs, and at last the bed themselves were the nothing but the calicos and the Indian stock. The British manufacturer put the pressure on their government to restrict the profit, prohibit the sale of Indian goods in the England. By 1740, the law had been passed forbidding the wear to youth of the printed dye cotton cloth. 1716, a lady had to pay a fine of €200 for the possessing an important handkerchief. Moreover, the heavy duty were imposed on the import of plain cloth. Other European company except the Holland also either prohibited the import of Indian clothes or the imposed heavy import duty. In spite of these laws, however, the Indian silk, cotton, textile still held their own in the foreign market until the middle of the 18th century. Even the English textile industry began to develop on the basis of new and advanced technology. After the Battle of Plassey, when it was 1757, the pattern of company commercial relation with the Indian underwent a qualitative change. Now the company could use the political control over the Bengal and acquire the monopolitics control over the Indian market and the production and the process Indian trade. Moreover, it usually utilized the revenue of Bengal to finance its export of Indian goods. The activity of company should have encouraged the Indian manufacture for the Indian export to the Britain and went up 1.5 euro million between the 7050 to 51 and 5.8 million euro in 1797 to 98. But this was not so. The company used its political power to dictate the terms to be wear of the Bengals were forced to sell their product at a cheaper and a dictated price, even at a loss. Moreover, their labor was no longer free. Many of them were compelled to work for the company for the low wages and forbidden to work for the Indian merchant. The company eliminated its rival traders, both Indian and foreigner, and prevent them from the offering the high wages the price of the Bengal handicap. The servant of company monopolized the sales of the raw cotton trade, made the Bengal weavers to pay the exorbitant price for it. Thus, the weaver lost both the way as a buyers as well as the seller. At the same time, the Indian textile had to pay heavy duty on entering the India. The British government was determined to protect its rising machine industry, which product could still not compete with the cheaper and the better Indian goods. Even so, the Indian product held some of their grounds. The real blow up to the Indian handicaps fell after the 1813, when they lost not only their foreign market but what was what what was of much greater importance, their market in the India itself. The Industrial Revolution in the Britain completely transformed the British company in its economic relation with India during the second half of the 18th century and first decade of the 19th century. The Britain underwent a profound social and economic transformation. The British industry developed, expanded rapidly on the basis of modern machine, the factory system, and the capitalism. Thus, this development was aided by the several factors. The British overseas trade had been expanding rapidly in the previous century. The British had come to capture the monopolies and many foreign markets by the means of war and the colonialism. This export market enabled its export industry to expand the production rapidly, utilizing the latest technique in the production and organization. Africa, West Indies, Latin America, Canada, Australia, China, all the above Indian provinces provided the unlimited opportunity for the export. And this was particularly true of the cotton textile industry, which served as the main vehicles of the industrial revolution in Britain. Britain has already evolved a colonial pattern of the trade that held the industrial revolution, which in turn strengthened its pattern. The colonies and the underdeveloped countries export the agricultures and the minerals to the Britain, while the latter sold them its manufacture. Second, there was sufficient capital accumulated in the country for the investment in the new machinery and the factory system. Moreover, this capital was concentrated not in the hand of the feudal class, which would avoid waste in the luxurious living, but this hand of the merchants and the industrialists who were keen to invest in the trades and industry. Here again, the immense wealth drawn from the America, Africa, and the West Indies, Latin America, including drawn from the India by the East India Company, and its servant after the Battle of Plassey. Its play an important role in financing the industry expansion. The third rapid increase in population met the need of the growing industry for the more and cheaper labor. The population of the Britain increased rapidly after the 1740. It's doubled in the 50 year in 1780. The fourth, Britain had a government which was under the influence of commercial and manufacturing interests, which therefore the fourth other countries determinantly for the market and the colony. Fifth is the demand for the increased production were made by the development in the technology, and Britain raising the industry and could basic itself on the invention of the Hargreaves, Watts, and Cromptons, Cartwright, many others. Many of invention now utilized have been available for the century. In order to take the full advantage of these inventions, and the steam power production was now increasingly concentrated in the factory. It should be noted that it was not these inventions which produced the industrial revolution. Rather, it was the desire of manufacture to increase the production rapidly for the expanding the market and their capacity to invest the needed capital, which lead them to utilizing the existing technology and call forth a new invention. In fact, the new organization of industry was to make the technical changes permanent feature of Indian development. The Industrial Revolution has in this sense never come to be an end for the modern industry, and technology have gone underdeveloped from one stage to another ever since the middle of the 18th century. The Industrial Revolution transformed the British society in the fundamental manner. It led to rapid economic development, which is fundamental of the today high standard living in the Britain as well as the Europe, the Soviet Union, USA, Canada, Australia, Japan. In fact, until beginning of the 19th century, the difference in the standard of living what are today economically advantaged and the backward country was not marked, and it was the absence of industrial revolution in the later group of countries which had led to immense income gaps that we see in the world of today. Britain became the increasingly urbanized as a result of industrial revolution. More and more people began to live in the factory town. In 1750, the Britain had only two cities with the more than 50,000 inhabited. In 1851, the number was 29. Two entirely new classes of society were born: the industrial capitalists who owned the factory and the worker who were laborers on the daily basis. While the farmer class developed rapidly, enjoying unprecedented prosperity, the worker, the laboring poor in the beginning, reap, uh, reap, reap the harvest of the sorrow. They were uprooted from their rural surrounding, and their traditional way of life has been disrupted and destroyed. They now had to live in the cities, which were full of smoke and the filth. Housing were the utterly inadequate, insanitary. Housing were the utterly inadequate and insanitary. Most of them live in the dark, sunless slums, which have been described as so well in the novels of the Charles Dickens. The working hour in the factory and mines were intolerably long, often going to 14 to 16 hours a day. Wages were very low. Women and children had to work equally hard. Sometimes 4 to 5 year old children were employed in the factory and mines. In general, the workers' wives was one of the poverty. The worker life was one of the poverty, hard work, disease, malnutrition. It was only after the middle of the 19th century that improvement in their income began to take place. The rise of powerful classes of manufacture had an important impact on Indian administration and policy. The interests of these classes in India uh, in the empire was very different from that of the East India Company, and it did not gain from the monopolies of the export of the Indian handicraft a direct appropriation of Indian revenue. As this class grew, a number of strength, political influence, it began to attack the trade monopoly of the company. Since the profit of these class come from the manufacturing and not from the trading. It wanted to encourage not the import of the manufacture from India, but the export of its own product to India as well as the import of raw material like raw cotton from India. In 1769, the British industrialists compelled the company to, by the law, to export every year British manufacture amounting of approximately 3,80,000 year euro. Even though it suffer a loss on the transaction, 70 1793, they forced the company to grant them to use the 3,000 tons of its shipping every year to carry their goods. Exports of the British cotton goods in the East India, mostly to the India, increased from the 156 euro in 1794 nearly 110,000 in 1830, that they by nearly 700 times. But this was increase was not enough to satisfy the wild hopes of the Lancashire manufacturers, who began to actively search for the way and the means of promoting the export of their product in India. R.C. Dutt pointed out later in 1901 in his famous work Economic History of India, written by the R.C. Dutt. The effort to Parliamentary Select Committee in 1812 was to discover how they could be the replace the British manufacture, and how the British industry could be promoted at the expenses of Indian industry. The British manufacturer looked upon the East India Company, its monopoly of Eastern trade, its method of exploitation of Indian through the control of India revenue and export trade, to be the chief obstacle and fulfillment of their dream. Between 1793 and 1813, they launched a powerful campaign against the company and its commercial privilege, and finally succeeded in 1830 in abolishing the monopoly of Indian trade. Uh, with this event, the new phase of the Britain's economic relation with the India began, and agricultural India was to be the main and economic colony of the Indian England. Government of India, Government of India now follow the policy of free trade or unrestricted entry of the British goods. Uh, the the Indian handicrafts were exposed to the fierce and the unequal competition of the machine made the product of British and faced the extinction. India had to admit the British good free at a nominal tariff rate. The government of India also tried to increase the number of purchases of British goods by the following a policy of face conquest and direct occupation of protected state like ours. Many of British officials, political leaders and the businessmen advocate reduction of land revenue so that the Indian peasant might be the better position to buy the foreign manufacture. They also advocate the Western Western situation, Westernization of India, so that the more and more India might develop the taste of the Western goods. Indian handmade goods were unable to compete against the much cheaper product of the British mills, which had been rapidly improving their productive capacity by using the invention and the wider use of the steam power. Any government wedded to the Indian interest alone could have protected the Indian industry through the high tariff war and used the time thus gain the import of the new technique of the past. The Britain had done this relation to its own industry in the 18th century. The France, Germany, US also do so that. So at the time, Japan and Soviet Union were to do many decades later, and the Free India is doing it today. However, not only were the Indian industry were protected by the forcing the ruler, but the foreign schools were given the free entry. The foreign importers rose rapidly. Import the British cotton goods alone increased the 1 lakh 10 euro in the 1830 to 6 lakh 30 euro in 1856. Free trades imposed on the Indian watch, however, one-sided, while the door of the India were thus thrown wide open to the foreign goods. The Indian products, which could still compete the British products, were subjected to heavy import duty on the entry to the Britain. The British would not ask in the Indian goods on the fair and equal terms even at these stages when their industry had achieved the technological superiority over the Indian handicraft. The duty to in the Britain's on several categories of the Indian goods continue to be the high. Still, their export to the Britain virtually cage. For example, 1824, the duty is 67.5% was levied on the Indian cellulose, and the duty 37% on Indian muslin. And the Indian sugar had to pay entry into the Britain a duty that was over the 3 times its cost price. In the some cases, the duty in the England went up as high as 400%. As a result, the prohibitive import duty, development of machine industry, Indian export to the foreign country fell rapidly. Unfairness of Britain's commercial policy has been summed up by the British historian H. H. Wilson in the following word. They said that it was a state in the evidence that the cotton and silk wood of India up to this period would be the sold for the profit in the Britain market at the price from 50 to 60% lower than those the fabricated in England. It consequently became necessary to protect the latter by the duty of 70 to 80% on the value or by the positive prohibition. Had this not been the case, had not such a prohibitory duty and decrease existed, the mills of the Paisley and the Manchester could have been stopped in their outset and uh, could secretly have been again set a motion even by the power of the state. They were created as sacrifices of Indian manufacture. Had India been independent, she would not retaliate it and would have imposed a preventive duty upon the British goods and would thus have preserved their own productive industry from the inhalation. This act of self-defense was not permitted, and she was the mercy of the stranger. The British would wear the force upon her without paying any duty. The foreign manufacturer employed to arm of the political injustice to keep down, and ultimately the strangle the competitor with whom he could not have contended on equal terms. Instead of exporting manufacture, the India was now forced to export the raw material like raw cotton, raw silk, and which the British industry needed urgently, and the plantation product like the indigo, tea, food grain, which were the short supply in the Britain. 1856, the India export 4,30,000 euro worth of raw cotton and 8,10,000 euro worth of cotton manufacture, 2,90,000 euro worth of food grain, 1,73,000 worth of indigo, 7,70,000 worth of raw silk. And the British also promoted the sale of Indian opium to the China, even though the Chinese put ban on it because of the poisonous and other harmful effects. But the trade yielded a large profit to the Britain merchant and the fat revenue to the company control administration of India. Interestingly enough, the import of opium into the Britain was strictly banned. By the end of 19th century, the Indian export consisting primarily raw cotton, jute, silk, oilseed, wheat, hide, skin, indigo, tea. Thus, the commercial policy of East India Company in 1813 was gained by the need of British industry, and its main aim was to transform the India into the consumer of British manufacture and supplier of raw material. So drain of wealth, how can we say that the drain of wealth? The British exported the Britain part of India wealth and the resources for which the India got no adequate economic or material return. This economic drain was peculiar to the British rule. Even the rest of the previous Indian government had spent off the revenue they extracted from the people inside the country. Whether they spent it on irrigation canal, trunk road, or on the places temple, mosque, or on the war, conquest, or even the personal luxury. It ultimately encouraged the Indian trades industry to give the employment to the Indian. This was so because even the foreign conqueror like the Mughals soon settled in the Indian and made it their home, but the British remained the perpetual, the foreigner. The Englishmen working and the trading in India nearly always planned to go back to the Britain, and the Indian government was controlled by the foreign company of the merchant and have the government of the Britain. The Britain consequently spent a large part of the taxes and income they derive from the Indian people, not in the India, but in the Britain, their home country. The drain of wealth from the Bengal began 1757, when the company servant began to carry home immense fortune extorted from Indian rulers, jamidar, merchants, and the common people. They sent home nearly 6 million euro between 1785 to 1765. This amount was more than the 4 times the total land revenue collection of the Nawab of Bengal in 1765. This amount of drain did not include the trading profit of the company, which were often no less illegally derived. 1765, the company acquired the Diwani of Bengal and thus gained the control over the revenue. The company, even more than its servants, soon directly organized the drain. It began to purchase the Indian goods out of revenue of the Bengal and export them. These purchases were known as the investment. Thus, through investment, the Bengal revenue was sent to the England. For example, 1765 to 1770, the company sent out nearly 4 million worth of goods, or about the 33% of the net revenue of the Bengal. By the end of the 18th century, the drain constituted nearly 9% of India national income. The actual drain was even more, as a large part of the salary and other income of the English official and the trading fortune of Indian merchants also found their way to the England. Drain took the form of an excess of India export over its import, for which the India got no return. While the exact amount of the annual drain has not been calculated so far, historians differ on its quantum. The fact of the drain, at least from the 1757 to 1857, was widely accepted by the British official. Thus, for the example, Lord Allen Broad, chairman of Select Committee of the House of the Lords, and later the Governor General of India, admitted 1840 that India was required to transmit annually to the country without any return except a small value of the military store, a sum of amounting to between the 2 and 3 millions sterling. And John Sullivan, the president of the Board of Revenue, the Madras, remarked, "Our system acts very much like sponges, drawing off all the good things from the bank of the Ganges and thus squeezing them down on the bank of the Thames." River Thames in England. The drain went on the increasing after the 1858, though the British administration and imperialist writer are began to deny the existence. By the end of 19th century, it constituted nearly 6% of Indian national income and one-third of the national saving. The wealth drain out of the India play an important part of financing Britain capitalist development, especially during the 18th century and the beginning of the 19th century, that is, during the period of Britain. Early industrialization, it has been estimated that it constituted nearly 2% of the British national income during the period. The figure assumed importance of it. It is kept in the view of the Britain was by that time investigating in industry and agriculture about the 7% of national income. Development of means of transport and communication. Up to the middle of the 19th century, the means of transportation in India was backward. By they were confined in the bullock cart and the pack horse. The British rulers soon realized that the cheap and easy system of transportation was necessary if British manufacture were to flow into the India in the large amount, and raw materials secured for the British industry. They introduced the steamship on the river and set about the improving the road. Work on the Grand Trunk Road from Calcutta to Delhi was begun in 1839 and completed in 1850. The efforts were also made to link by the roads the major city ports market of the country, but the real improvement in the transport only come with the advance of the railway. First railway engine were designated George Stephens was put in the on the rail of in England 1814. The railway developed rapidly in that country during the 1830s and 1840s. The pressure soon mounted for their speedy construction in India. The British manufacturer hoped merely to open the vast and hitherto untapped market in the interior of the country and facilitated export of Indian raw material and the food stocks to feed their hungry machine and the operative. The British banker and the investors look upon the railway development in the India as a channel for the safe investment of their surplus capital. The British steel manufacturers are regarded as an outlet for their product like rail, engine, wagons, and other plant and machinery. The government of India soon fell in the state with these views and found the additional merit in the railway. They would enable to the administration the country more effectively and to protect their regime from the interest, the rebellion or external aggression by the enabling the rapid mobilization movement of the troops.
ऑन है ना, चला गया पानी।
कोई और